Today, I would like to highlight just three among a long list of changes we're trying to make, just three. The changes we made to our core normative and technical functions, the changes we made to our work in emergencies, and the changes we made to our financial model. I will also update you on our restructuring and our work on reform of the global health architecture. First, our core mandate: science, data, norms, and standards, as some say, WHO's bread and butter. Prior to 2019, the way WHO developed normative products was fragmented, with limited quality control or overview. So for the first time in the organization's history, we established a new science division, led by the chief scientist as a new executive position to consolidate and strengthen WHO's normative and technical work. By the way, this work is going to help the organization because we are saying, and many of you are saying, WHO should focus on its core mandate, and this is the core mandate. We have strengthened our evidence generation processes and aligned pre-qualifications of medical products with the introduction of living guidelines. For example, in the past, WHO would pre-qualify medicines and only then develop guidelines on their use. The process was disjointed and could take years. Last year, WHO pre-qualified the groundbreaking drug lenacapavir for HIV prevention at the same time as we developed the guidelines in just 8 months. But we also want to make sure that WHO doesn't just produce technical products that sit on a shelf, but that are put to use. So since 2024, we opened the WHO Academy in Lyon, France, which now offers over 400 courses in 23 languages, reaching over 120,000 learners so far. We're also leveraging the network of over 800 WHO collaborating centers, as the Federal Councillor had said earlier. We established the World Health Data Hub to consolidate our fragmented data and analytics capacities. We're investing in a modern data backbone, including an AI-powered single-point discovery for data, statistics, and knowledge products. We continue to modernize interoperability standards, including ICD-11, which is accessed 4 million times daily in 15 languages. And to support countries to harness the power of digital technologies and artificial intelligence for health, we established a dedicated department at headquarters with focal points across all 6 regions. The second major area of change came with the COVID-19 pandemic, which exposed many gaps in global health security and taught us all many lessons. And based on the gaps we identified, I will focus on 6 today, we're changing. And first, we saw the world needed enhanced capabilities to identify and respond to threats faster. So with support from Germany, we established the WHO Hub for Pandemic and Epidemic Intelligence in Berlin. Second, the pandemic exposed deep inequities in access to vaccines, diagnostics, and therapeutics. So we established the Access to COVID-19 Tools Accelerator, including COVAX, followed by Interim Medical Countermeasures Network. We also set up the mRNA Technology Transfer Hub in Cape Town, South Africa, which is now sharing technology with research centers in 15 countries. And the WHO Biomanufacturing Workforce Training Initiative in the Republic of Korea, which is supporting countries to build the workforce they need with the skills they need for local manufacturing. Third, to strengthen national capacity, together with the World Bank, we established the Pandemic Fund, which has so far disbursed $1.4 billion in grants to 128 countries. We also established the Universal Health and Preparedness Review, a peer review mechanism to build national capacity and enhance accountability. And fourth, to improve coordinated global sharing of pathogen materials, we established the WHO BioHub here in Switzerland, again, as Federal Councillor said, which has now shared 165 samples. And fifth, to enhance emergency workforce capacity, we established the Global Health Emergency Corps, which recently ran its second simulation exercise involving 600 health emergency experts and 25 partner organizations from 26 countries and territories. And six, we recognized that we needed to reform the governance of global health security to bring everything together into a cohesive whole. At this assembly, 2 years ago, member states adopted a set of amendments to the international health regulations. And last year, you adopted the WHO Pandemic Agreement, a landmark instrument of international health law. The final remaining piece of the puzzle is the pathogen access and benefit sharing system, as has been said earlier by previous speakers, the PABS Annex. Of course, we had all hoped that negotiations would be completed in time for PABS to be adopted at this assembly. It hasn't happened yet, but I'm confident it will, and I thank member states for their commitment to continuing negotiations and seeking consensus, which I have no doubt you will find and address the last piece of the puzzle. The third major area of transformation, and arguably the most significant, is the historic change we're making the way WHO is financed. As they say, the economy is stupid. In terms of independence and avoiding shocks like now, it's the finance model stupid, which is central. When WHO was established in 1948, its only source of funding was from assessed contributions, the membership fees that countries pay. Voluntary contributions were introduced in the 1950s, but initially represented only about 20% of WHO's base budget. By 2017, that proportion had flipped. Assessed contributions accounted for only 20%, even sometimes low, of the base budget, and voluntary contributions accounted for more than 80%. What's more, the majority of voluntary contributions were and remain tightly earmarked for specific projects and programs selected by donors, making WHO vulnerable to shifting donor priorities and geopolitical winds. We recognized this over-reliance on inflexible voluntary contributions from a handful of donors as a major risk 8 years ago. It undermined the organization's independence, impeded its agility, and exposed it to shocks if a major donor were to withdraw or reduce its funding significantly. So, as you remember, together with member states, we designed a set of proposals to broaden our donor base or the revenue source and make our funding more predictable and sustainable. Several member states reduced earmarking and committed to higher levels of flexible and voluntary funding. And we thank these countries for their trust and support. We also established the WHO Foundation to tap sources of funding that we had not accessed before. Most significantly, we proposed a plan to increase assessed contributions from 20% base budget to 50%. In 2022, here at the World Health Assembly, member states approved a plan to increase assessed contributions to 50% of the base budget. Subsequently, they agreed to achieve that target in 5 installments. The first 2 have already happened, and the remaining 3 are due in 2027, 2029, and 2031. We cannot overstate just how transformational this change has been and will continue to be for safeguarding WHO's institutional independence and for protecting the organization against shocks like the shock that happened last year. If the first two installments had not happened, the impact of last year's funding cut would have been much worse, as you can imagine. Excellencies, honorable ministers, dear colleagues and friends, there are three key areas in which WHO has transformed: science, emergencies, and finance, among others. Now, I would like to update you briefly on the comprehensive process of prioritization and realignment that we have undergone in the past 16 months. Although the first two increases in assessed contribution cushioned the impact of the funding cuts we faced, they could not insulate us fully. In close consultation with member states, we reduced our program budget and undertook a rigorous analysis of every office and every program. Unfortunately, we were left with no choice but to say goodbye to a large number of dedicated, hard-working colleagues, and I would like to place on record my deep gratitude to all of them for their commitment and service. We have now completed the restructuring process. We have reached a position of stability and are moving forward with purpose and confidence. The crisis actually brought clarity and confirmed that what we have been doing the last 8 years actually is the right road to stability. We project that for the current biennium, 90% of the base budget is funded. However, we recognize that in the current environment, the remaining 10% will not be easy to mobilize. And because the majority of voluntary contributions remain earmarked, we continue to see pockets of poverty in many areas of our work. That makes it essential that member states fulfill their commitment to approving the remaining 3 increases in assessed contributions and to fully honoring the commitments you made in the investment round. At the same time, the work of reforming WHO to make it leaner and more effective, focused on its core mandate and efficient, will continue. There is always room for improvement. There are always lessons to learn. There are always things we can do better, should do better, and will do better. For us, I would like to assure you that change is a constant, and we will continue to change, not for the sake of change, but for the sake of countries and the people we serve. In some areas, this will require stepping back from work that others are better placed to perform. Because, after all, WHO is only one part of the global health architecture. Over time, that architecture has become increasingly crowded, complex, and fragmented. It's time for a renovation to build a new global health architecture fit for the future. At this assembly, member states will consider a proposal for a member state-led WHO-hosted joint process to reform the global health architecture. Our purpose is not to launch a new initiative, but to bring together the many existing initiatives that have proposed reforms of the global health architecture in part or in whole. That's why we have chosen as the theme for this year's World Health Assembly, Reshaping Global Health, a Shared Responsibility. And this is where the leadership of His Excellency President Mahama has been so decisive in launching the Accra Reset last year. In the past year, many countries have experienced severe disruptions due to sudden and steep cuts in the development assistance. Those disruptions and the damage they caused to the health of individuals, families, and communities were regrettable and avoidable. But they had an intended benefit. They prompted many leaders to say, now is the moment to leave behind the era of donor dependency and open a new era of health sovereignty. This is the message of the Accra Reset, and the echoes of Accra are now resounding in Geneva and around the world. Thank you, Your Excellency, for your leadership on this. And you are very clear also in your message today. Every country should be able to depend on other countries for friendship, for solidarity, for support when needed. But no country wants to be dependent. Every country wants equity. Every country wants sovereignty. It's a cliché to say we are at a turning point, a fork in the road. In this case, it's true. This is the moment for change. This is the opportunity to take the road that leads to sovereignty, the road that leads to solidarity, the road that leads to equity. That's the road down which many countries are now walking. And that's the road that WHO is walking with you every step of the way. It's the road that leads to the destination that our founders set 78 years ago, the highest attainable standard of health, not as a luxury for some, but a right for all. I visited Malaysia recently, and I had a meeting with His Excellency, the Prime Minister. And one thing I picked up was Malaysia bole bole, Malaysia bole. It means Malaysia can. I think all countries can. And that's what President Mahama showed us in his examples, that it's possible to change, to have a paradigm shift. So bole bole, it's possible, we can. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much, Dr. Tedros. Se me ha informado ahora que el director general desea reconocer la labor de varias personas excepcionales por su extraordinaria dedicación y su compromiso con el avance de la salud mental. Pero antes de proseguir con los premios, vamos a disfrutar de una actuación del ballet dominicano en Europa. Adelante, por favor.
Hay un país en el mundo colocado en el mismo trayecto del sol, oriundo de la noche, colocándose en un inverosímil archipiélago de azúcar y de alcohol, sencillamente liviano, como un ala de murciélago apoyado en la brisa, sencillamente claro, como el rastro del beso en las solteronas antiguas o el día en los tejados.
Muchas gracias al Ballet Dominicano, Felt Like Home. Dr. Tedros, les ruego ahora que proceda a entregar los premios a los líderes de la salud mundial galardonados.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's my honor to now invite His Excellency President Mahama and the Director General, Dr. Tedros, for the award ceremony. Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, President of the World Health Assembly, distinguished delegates, on behalf of the Director General, it's my honor to present the Global Health Awards to 4 individuals who have made outstanding lifetime contributions to global health. First, Dr. Tore Godal of Norway. Dr. Godal's contribution Dr. Godal's contribution to global health is immense. He was instrumental in establishing numerous global health initiatives, including Gavi, CEPI, the Global Fund, Every Woman, Every Child Initiative, the Global Financing Facility, Rollback Malaria, the Medicines for Malaria Venture, and others. In DG's own country, Ethiopia, he conducted groundbreaking research on leprosy when he was director at the Armor Hansen Research Institute, which still awards an annual prize in his name to young Ethiopian researchers. He brought his knowledge and experience to WHO as director of the Special Program for Research and Training in Tropical Diseases, or TDR. In that role, he organized a clinical trial for a drug combination for leprosy that has now become the cornerstone of leprosy elimination efforts. He also organized a huge clinical trial of insecticide-impregnated mosquito nets, which led to a change in WHO's strategy that has saved millions of lives. Now I'd like to invite Dr. Heba Al-Suwaidi of Egypt. Dr. Heba Al-Suwaidi is a visionary leader whose commitment to health, dignity, and social justice has transformed the lives of thousands of people, especially the most vulnerable. From the early days of her humanitarian work, treating the wounded in Tahrir Square, she demonstrated courage, compassion, and an unwavering dedication of patient care. Through her leadership, she has advanced a comprehensive model to burn care that goes beyond treatment to emphasize prevention, rehabilitation, and reintegration. Her work supports survivors not only to recover physically, but to rebuild their lives with dignity, including through access to livelihoods and community inclusion. Dr. Al-Suwaidi's approach shows that health is not only about saving lives, but about restoring hope and opportunity. Dr. Suwaidi. Now it's my honor to invite the third recipient, Dr. Michael Ryan of Ireland, our own Mike. Dr. Ryan has devoted his career to protecting people in the most difficult and dangerous circumstances, bringing science, leadership, and humanity to the front lines of global health emergencies. Dr. Ryan possesses a rare combination of skills and experience from the clinical, the field, and the boardroom. As a former executive director of the WHO's Health Emergencies Program, he guided the world through some of the most complex crises of our time, including COVID-19, several Ebola outbreaks, and numerous humanitarian emergencies. Throughout the pandemic, he combined decisive leadership, technical insight, and authoritative communication. He was also instrumental in shaping many of the initiatives that WHO and member states have put in place in response to COVID-19, including the WHO Pandemic Agreement. He has been and continues to be a powerful advocate for equity, country leadership, and for the dignity of every person affected by crisis. Dr. Ryan, please. Our last awardee for the day is Dr. Marceline Dahl-Regis of the Bahamas. Dr. Dahl-Regis Dr. Dahl-Regis is a distinguished public health leader whose lifelong commitment to improving health has transformed lives across the Americas and beyond. Through her outstanding leadership in disease elimination, she has helped deliver some of the most significant public health achievements of our time. Her work, grounded in rigorous science and strong community engagement, has advanced equitable access to prevention and care. Dr. Dahl-Regis played a pivotal role in leading the Americas to become the first region in the world to be declared free of measles and rubella, a landmark achievement that continues to save lives. She has consistently championed a holistic approach to health and development, recognizing that strong communities are at the heart of sustainable progress. Her dedication, vision, and integrity have inspired generations of public health professionals. Dr. Dahl-Regis, please. Dr. Dahl-Regis. Yeah. Come here. Your Excellency and DG, you may take your seats. I'll be inviting so may now invite the awardees for their remarks. Dr. Rodriguez first.
Mr. President, Director, your honored guests, distinguished delegates, thank you for this recognition, which I humbly accept on behalf of the many public health professionals, environmental health people, healthcare providers in the Bahamas, the Caribbean, the Americas, and countries around the world, and for my colleagues who serve tirelessly, often in difficult and dangerous circumstances, at great personal sacrifice. Through my journey, I've been guided by exceptional mentors and multidisciplinary personnel whose resilience, compassion continue to inspire me. However, my greatest teachers have been the children, their courage and enduring hope that remind us why our work matters. Working with PAHO, WHO, many global committees, Gavi, international organizations, often tested my resolve, but also strengthened my sense of purpose. The achievements in public health and scientific advancement reflect your leadership, your collaboration, and commitment. You've saved billions of lives, improved quality of life, and protected future generations from devastating diseases. However, urgent challenges remain. Millions, especially those living in conflict zones, still lack access to basic health care. Delegates, we must act now. Our humanity is inseparable from our responsibility to preserve dignity and expand opportunity for all. Cooperation, Madam, cooperation must remain our guiding principle. The future can be brighter, but only if we act with purpose. Therefore, we must talk, not fight. We must expand access to healthcare for all. We must practice human rights, not merely speak about them. Solidarity remains essential, and we have good examples. So, distinguished delegates, in these ever-changing times, we must never grow weary in doing what is right. As we pass the torch to the next generation of public health professionals, let us do so with confidence that they will build a better future than we have known. We've done it before, we can do it again, and do it even better. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Regis. May I now invite Dr. Tore Godal for his remarks, please.
Dear Dr. Tedros, ministers, colleagues, and friends, it is a great honor for me to receive this prestigious award. As you all know, and we have heard today, we are currently experiencing severe resource constraints for global health, and facts and evidence are under serious attacks. I've had the privilege to work with Global Health and WHO for over 55 years. As a scientist, I've been involved in building evidence for policy making. And with your permission, Director General, I will give you two earlier examples of building evidence in resource-constrained situations. Around 1990, we had several studies suggesting that impregnated bed nets protected children from malaria. But the policymakers at WHO refused to make a policy. I got sort of upset. And we therefore arranged in TDR for a randomized control study, putting close to 1 million children under bed nets. We documented in 1996 that it reduced overall child mortality by 20%. Impregnated nets then became immediately policy by WHO, but nothing happened because of lack of financing. In 2000, the Director General of WHO at that time, Gro Harlem Brundtland, convinced the G7 in Japan that the planned AIDS fund should also include malaria and tuberculosis. Then, with the support of the Global Fund, scaling up of bed nets happened, leading to halving of malaria deaths by 2012. A second example is in relation to Ebola. In August 2014, the cases of Ebola in Africa doubled every week. Some of us, including Jeremy Farrar, Marie-Paul Keeney, and Jon Arne Røttingen, thought we needed to develop a vaccine. We selected the one requiring only 1 dose. But we had only 8,000 doses and a few $1 million available, which shows a ring vaccination strategy to simplify the field work. After 9 months, the independent committee assessing the data asked us to break the code because the protection was statistically significant. Merck took on production, and we had a vaccine against the Zaire strain of Ebola. Now, with a different strain epidemic in Africa, it is important the work that is already being invested in by CEPI to actually develop then, with the aid of artificial intelligence, a pan-Ebola vaccine. I mentioned these two examples of innovative approaches to show how important it is that we, even at resource-constrained times, continue to build the facts and evidence for improving people's health. Thank you again, Dr. Tedros. Amasagnalo.
Thank you, Dr. Godal. May I now invite Dr. Heba Al-Suwaidi.
Hello. It is with deep humility and gratitude that I stand before you today to receive this distinguished recognition from the World Health Organization. My sincere appreciation goes to Mr. Tedros, the WHO Director General, and to the World Health Assembly. Thank you. Special gratitude to Ms. Hanan Balkhi, WHO Regional Director for the Eastern Mediterranean, for her nomination for this extraordinary honor and for your great support. Deep thanks to Dr. Khalid Abdel Ghaffar, Egypt's Minister of Health and Population, for his continuous support. This honor belongs to every member of Ahl Masr family who believed that burn victims deserve not only survival, but dignity, healing, inclusion, empowerment, and a future. Ahl Masr Foundation was established to change the reality of burn care in Egypt and the region. Today, through Ahl Masr non-profit burn hospital, the first and largest in the Middle East and Africa, we are proud to have transformed burn care in Egypt. In only 2 years since opening the hospital, we increased the survival rate of severe burn patients from 20% to 84%, while reducing permanent disability rates from 18% to 10%. We also performed Egypt's first cadaver skin transplantation procedure and helped save lives of more than 20,000 severe burn patients starting from just 3 months old. But our mission goes far beyond medical treatment. At Ahl Masr, we believe burns are not only a medical condition, but a social disease connected to poverty, violence, stigma, illiteracy, and inequality in healthcare access. This belief led us to establish the Ahl Masr Inclusion and Empowerment Center, supporting survivors through education, literacy programs, physical support, and psychological support, and economic empowerment. As part of our outreach program, and in collaboration with the Ministry of Health, we are developing Egypt's first telemedicine model for burn care across governorates with the vision of expanding it nationwide. Today, we are honored to partner with the World Health Organization and the Egyptian General Health Council in developing the world's first national burn management guidelines formulated at the country level. In collaboration with the World Health Organization and Ministry of Health and Population, we are also contributing to shaping the national strategy for burn treatment, prevention, rehabilitation, and care across Egypt for the next 10 years. In parallel, Ahl Masr is advancing towards designation as the first WHO collaborating center for burn care globally, with core mandates focused on training and capacity building, research, health, data systems, and burn prevention. We hope this will mark the beginning of a new global chapter where burn care receives the attention, collaboration, and investment it urgently deserves. Thank you to the World Health Organization for believing in this mission and for recognizing burn care as an essential part of global health equity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Al-Suwaidi. And last but not least, Dr. Michael Ryan, please.
Excellencies, colleagues, my friends, those of you who know me will understand this. Now the real Mike Ryan can speak. I stand before you today, I'm humbled by this honour, but one thing this journey has taught me is that no achievement in global health or life is ever individual. Every success has belonged to the communities who welcomed us, to the workers who never gave up on the front line, to countries, partners and colleagues who've chosen action and solidarity over inaction and indifference. Thanks to my family, who sacrificed so much that I could do the work I do, to my community and friends who nurtured me, to the Irish state who educated a generation, me amongst them, and to the mentors like Tedros who gave me the opportunity to shine. I've had the privilege of serving in some of the most difficult circumstances imaginable. Outbreaks of Ebola, Marburg, cholera, dysentery, meningitis, polio, SARS-1, COVID-19, multiple disasters and humanitarian crises, where health systems were stretched beyond endurance. In those moments, statistics disappear. What remains are people, frightened families, exhausted nurses, brave community workers, and children whose futures depend on whether we act with speed, determination, courage, and compassion. The big numbers we always speak of disappear in the field. The N is not billions. The N is not millions. The N is not even thousands. The N is equal to one. One community, one family, one person, one child. The lessons I learned have been simple. First, health is not a privilege. It is a human right. Second, science matters. Facts matter. Truth matters. Public health cannot function in a world where disinformation spreads faster than disease. And third, and I think most importantly for me, the most powerful asset in any emergency is trust. Trust between governments and citizens, trust between scientists and governments, and between nations themselves. The world today faces enormous challenges: conflict, climate change, displacement, pandemics, failed immunization, profound inequity and mindless cruelty. Yet, I remain optimistic. I was once accused by a great friend of mine, Tom Grind, of being a pathological optimist. I'm glad to be in that club. Because I've seen extraordinary acts of courage, of kindness, of resilience in every corner of this world. Because I have seen incredible talent, commitment and capability in the so-called South. And because I have seen you all come together and agree on profoundly important global strategies and public health law, like the revised IHR and the pandemic agreements. It is time for WHO, and you, the collective ministers of the world, you are WHO. It's not the technicians, it's not the secretariat, it's you. And you need to evolve this organization that was designed 3/4 of a century ago to meet the challenges we face today. We must recognize again those who we truly serve, the people in every community, in every country, in every corner of the world. WHO needs to remain a unique convening, coordination and standard-setting platform, but I believe passionately that it also needs to be highly operational in public health emergency coordination, especially in fragile and conflict-affected settings. And I will never step back from that belief and that position, as I hope you never will either. To the next generation of public health leaders, I say this: stay curious, stay compassionate, and never lose your sense of outrage at injustice. Public health is at its core a commitment to human dignity, human equity and social justice. I accept this award on behalf of every health worker, logistician, laboratory scientist, cleaner, driver, translator, secretary and community volunteer who has dedicated their lives to protecting others. I only wish that my dear friends Aidan O'Leary and Pete Salama were here today. Thank you, Tedros, for your trust, for your shared belief that health for all and health equity is not an aspiration, it is an obligation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. That concludes the award ceremony. I'd like to hand back to the President of the World Health Assembly. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Dr. Tedros.
Many thanks, Dr. Tedros.
Y enhorabuena a los galardonados por este reconocimiento tan merecido. Con esto queda concluida la bienvenida de alto nivel. La mesa de la Asamblea se reunirá a las 12 horas en la sala 12. Se levanta la sesión plenaria que se reanudará en esta misma sala a las 14:30 horas. Muchas gracias.